Welcome back, our dear viewers, and joining us now via phone call, our first guest of the evening, Dr. Anwar Mohammad, Senior Scientist at Desman Diabetes Institute. Dr. Anwar, welcome to Hala Kuwait and hope you're enjoying your evening so far.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for having me on the show.
Welcome again, Dr. Anwar, and we would like to start, please, if you can tell us or can tell our viewers also about your role as a research scientist in Kuwait and the type of medical research you conduct.
Thank you again.
It's our pleasure.
Actually, I work in the Sman Diabetes Institute, and with my colleagues, they normally do a lot of research and have certain targets with proteins. And I work mainly as a computational biologist, so I
Great.
use up to date softwares and hardware to model proteins and see how they're involved in disease, mainly diabetes and obesity.
Well, that's great. And it's also a noble quest and research and work and great effort you're doing, Dr. Anwar. And it's really helping a lot of people from all around the world and specifically in our lovely country, Kuwait. So you work in a well-known diabetes research institute, Dasman Diabetes Institute. Can you please explain to us why diabetes is such an important disease to study, especially in Kuwait and also the wider region?
Diabetes is a growing pandemic worldwide, and the prevalence is increasing around the world. And Kuwait has one of the highest rates of diabetes, unfortunately, and that which makes it important for us to study certain avenues to mitigate the disease, whether it's through patients, mainly through research, understanding how we can actually curtail the disease, because sometimes it's been realized that it's actually region dependent. So we're trying to understand how the disease works and how to stop it from spreading or increasing in prevalence.
Well, that's great. And doctor, let's go and mention also your background and field of knowledge and field of studying. We're talking actually about computational biology. So for our viewers who are not scientists, how would you explain what a computational biologist does?
What we do is we model what happens in the cell, but on a computer level, because there are some experiments that could be difficult to emulate in the cell or reproduce in the cell. So there are computer softwares and models where actually we can use to produce what's happening in the cell, or almost like what's happening in the cell. Try to understand how proteins bind to targets, or drugs bind to proteins that are important in diabetes. And that's how we work with, of course, closely with people in the laboratory in Desman. So we work with groups that do the experiments in the lab, and then they come to me and say, okay, let's do it on the computer and see if it looks the same or it does the same kind of work. So that's the kind of things I do, actually.
Definitely. And doctor, let's go and go a little bit social. Like, the majority of us, especially when we go sit with our friends in Duania or in public places or in cafes or family gatherings, I believe a lot of our family members and colleagues and friends, they have a new friend with two letters. We can make it like shortcut. It's the AI. Everyone wants
Of course,
to go and ask the AI.
of
Everyone
course.
wants to spoil their AI and create their
Yes,
names and also application pay for it monthly so they can get the premium services.
true.
So let's go and talk about everyone who's talking about the trendy topic of artificial intelligence. Of course, we
So,
know that artificial intelligence is now changing the medical research. So now we're talking more serious when it comes to the AI. We're not going to ask the AI or not going to talk about the AI about our personal struggling daily problems or something unnecessary or something we overthink about. We're talking about something serious. We're talking about the AI changing the aspect of medical research. How are you and the DDI using the AI to study the diabetes and to understand the biology behind the disease?
so precisely, it's changed our lives on a personal level, but of course, at the scientific level, it has kind of, we can say, up the game a bit, because in a general standpoint, now we can analyze larger data sets at a faster speed. We can sift through data faster, look at faster targets when it comes to any disease, but of course, especially diabetes, because it's a huge a pandemic around the world. So we have a lot of people with diabetes. We can collect a lot of data. We can understand the disease better. We can understand different trends changing because of the disease. And when it comes to my kind of work, we can analyze structures better. So, for example, things that used to take, when it comes to, for example, AI can speed up the process. Things that used to take like a week to process, now it takes hours to process, which puts more pressure on me at work. But again, it helps us a lot. But also the accuracy has increased because there's less level of error. Of course, you still need the human aspect to analyze the AI data that is presented, because sometimes AI still makes errors. So we can't trust it 100% totally so far.
Yeah, you have to be careful with
Yes.
selecting the information, which is really
Yeah.
a great warning from your behalf, doctor. What about the diabetes? And also, let's go back to, let's say in the family. Sometimes, like when we reach our 30s or 40s or 50s, we see one of our parents or both of them, they might warn us that they got diabetes in the age we are at now. So they might warn us like, don't eat sweets a lot, don't eat this way, don't do this lifestyle. But even some people, they say, even if you avoid the things your parents or your relatives warned you about, it can be also other people mentioning that it's the lifestyle we're following and it's the daily routine that causes diabetes. So it's really a huge subject to talk about with many reasons and many involvements. So we're talking about diabetes that involves, or diabetes, it involves actually many genes, proteins, and pathways. So how does the AI help researchers in that subject to identify which biological targets might be important for the future treatments?
So one way we could do this, of course, we know that mainly, diabetes is a lifestyle problem, but also genetics do play a big role in this. I think they work hand in hand, so they kind of collaborate against us. If we have a terrible lifestyle and not good genetics, maybe you get diabetes faster, unfortunately. But what we could do is with the genetics is once we analyze the genes, we can specify some people have certain proteins that are expressed in a different way or have what we call mutations. And these mutations can affect pathways and it can affect proteins that are involved in diabetes. So we can use AI tools to model these proteins and understand the pathways and how they are interacting with other proteins. If that's the reason why diabetes is being exacerbated, we can say, and we can probably then move to developing drugs or use other drugs that are involved in the market. So it's a long-term process, but that's where the research is kind of trying to go, actually, is that we check the genetics. If people have some genetic pathways that are affected or protein pathways, then we design drugs based on those,
Definitely.
mutations.
Alhamdulillah. And also, even people who are diagnosed with diabetes, thanks to you, doctor, and your colleagues, you're spreading awareness very well to them, and they're managing it well when it comes to their diabetes. And also, we're curious to know about computer. Also, it's a part of technology, and how can the computer models help you researchers decide which diabetes treatment ideas are more worth for testing further?
So that's the next step in what we're trying to do. So now with my colleagues, since we have analyzed a lot of data of patients, and then we have large data sets and genes, what we have looked at is actually some proteins that are already drug targets, that we have drugs and medications on the market that actually interact with these proteins. But some people have different mutations, so we would expect that the drug which interact differently or they have different outcomes with the medication. So that's what we're trying to do at the computational level. And then what I get as results, I disseminate it to my colleagues, and then we can work further, publish this data, or communicate with physicians in the long run. So again, that's the process we're trying to aim for in the future.
And doctor, of course, you witnessed some cases or stories about people, or let's say some people, or let's say more simple, why do some people with diabetes respond better to certain medicines than other people diagnosed with diabetes?
Again, it comes back to the same question, is mainly studies have seen that it's the genetics. So it could be mainly genetics because, again, a lot of the medications designed have certain targets in the body, and my target could have some kind of mutation that another person's target doesn't have, and that could affect in the effect of the drug. That's where personalized medicine comes in. Is that we, once understanding the genetics, we might have drug doses for each person on the planet differently. Maybe
Differently.
one day, we never know.
Definitely. And of course, doctor, we all heard about a lot of great heroes who are diagnosed with diabetes, how they manage it with exercising,
Yes.
healthy lifestyle, and managing it with a great routine and with high encouraging
True.
spirit.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, how do you hope that the AI will help to create more personal and more effective treatments for diabetes?
I think it will come to it has to be collaboration, of course, with all the people involved in this field. Is that the more data we have, the more understanding we have of the population, and then this is where AI comes in. We can go through this data faster. We can target certain aspects where we know, okay, this population or the Kuwaiti population has certain targets for the reason we have high prevalence of diabetes, and then there we can design newer treatments or make the treatments that we have on the market more effective. That's how I would see it actually going in the future.
Well, that's great and encouraging from your behalf. Such a great news, Dr. Anwar. And before we end this great interview and the valuable information, thanks to you shared with us, we would like
Thank
to have from your behalf, please, final word for people watching us tonight,
you.
especially people with diabetes.
Yeah, well, again, you mentioned it. So, exercise, have a healthy lifestyle, keep active is the best way to stop diabetes actually affecting you. And I would like also to thank, our support from Kuwait Foundation of Science and the management of Dasman for always helping with this research. But again, people should always be active to stop the spread of diabetes.
Definitely. Thanks to
Yeah.
you and
Thank
also
you, man.
to Desman Institute. You're doing a great effort through the social media and different media types, awareness for all people to learn more and valuable information from your behalf and from your colleagues. Thank you again, Dr. Anwar. I really hope you enjoy your evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.